else. Did you see that?
What happened? No.
Oh my gosh. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to episode 11 of season 2 of Coffee and Cauldrons. If you've just joined us, I am Robin at A Tired Witch on Instagram. And I'm joined with the beautiful and talented Maria of Maria the Arcane on Instagram. Good morning.
Why, hello. Thank you for telling me that I'm talented.
Oh, well, somebody must, right? Oh my god. Oh, goodness. All right, guys, we're going to talk about the elephant in the room. Every week, we talk about upcoming lunar phases and kind of what that means for us. And like we talked about last episode, it is eclipse season, which, by the way, shout out to Warrior Witch Nike, who did confirm that eclipse season is a thing and that we weren't both just misremembering. Okay, so we're going to talk. I'm going to preface this. I prefaced it last week, but I feel like we need to preface it again because the internet is having a full meltdown. Eclipses historically are seen as a bad omen in some traditions, as well as astrologically, it can be seen as a bad omen. Now, does that mean you cannot work with them? No, it does not. It is varying on your path, your tradition, and your culture. For example, I know that the ancient Mayans believed that lunar eclipses were like a horrific omen, but simultaneously you have more like... what's the word I'm looking for here? Modern witchcraft, where it is embracing and encompassing all aspects of a phase. I am not going to tell you what you should or should not do. It is entirely your choice. What I'm about to talk about is if you decide to work with these lunar phases, the energies that potentially come with that. Your choice on if you want to work with it or not, but do know that historically many traditions do see eclipses as bad omens, as well as you have astrology, etc., like thousands of years of astrology, so on and so forth. It is your decision, but please stop arguing about it. We all get to make choices for ourselves in our path. So I'm not telling you you should. I'm not telling you you shouldn't. But I am telling you that we got the solar eclipse in Gemini on June 10th, which is the same day as the new moon. And if you choose to work with this solar eclipse, we are going to be looking at energies that are very similar to Gemini, partnering with not only the new moon, but this solar eclipse, which if you understand solar magic and how that works, the thought process for some people is that it is all phases of a solar phase. I can speak English. All phases of the sun within like a short period of time. So with that, we have energies of versatility, adaptability, communication, self-expression. Think about two sides of a coin, much like Gemini would, if you will. We're looking at imagination, creativity, etc. These are all universally considered positive things. Again, if we choose to use it, you have that partnered with the new moon, which is a new start, new beginning, etc. So let's stop arguing about it, please. I'm getting very tired.
Yeah.
I'm very tired. I don't think anybody's wrong. I don't. I think that people who say to not use it are 100% right because there's a lot of history there. There is like historical basis for that. There is astrological basis for that, etc. But people who do choose to use it might be very advanced practitioners. You don't know that. And you can't know that about somebody. So let's all just be nice.
I think the most important thing about working with eclipses is how is your energy? If you're like having a terrible freaking day, or you've been having terrible days, it's probably like your energy is already not very good. So maybe not.
I didn't work with the full moon eclipse at all. Because I've had a really bad week. Like, nope. Like, nope, I'm not touching that shit. I didn't even light my altar candles, my everyday like altar candles. Didn't even light those. I was like, not touching it. Nope.
Yeah. I think I've worked with eclipses like a few times. But I like it better when it hits on like our time zone, you know? So then you can actually, while the moon is gaining power, you can work with that aspect, and then you can work with it when it's reverse that. When it's, losing power. It's basically working with all of the phases in that one night and
it can be
timing it.
That's very draining.
It is. And honestly, though, like if you're, as Robin said, advanced enough to do it, and if you have the energy to do it, like it can really be, at least for myself and in my experience, a great time to do spell work for like important things. But you definitely have to do it correctly.
I know we prefaced it last time, but everybody acted like this was the first eclipse that has ever happened. Like, I don't know if anybody else got that vibe on the internet, but like the entire internet melted the fuck down. And I'm just like, hey guys, hey, everybody needs it. Why don't we all just have a nice tea and chill out?
Should we just blame TikTok? Because I feel like it was probably TikTok that started it.
I don't know that for sure, way. Though. I feel like saying
sounds about right.
It does sound about right, but yeah, no, I don't fucking know. But I will say that if you choose to work with an eclipse, since we are talking about this apparently again, the eclipses can come with very unpredictable energies. It can. Now, does that mean that, again, that you shouldn't? No. But you should also be aware of this going into it. So make your choices, make your own discernments. Like, you're adults, I would assume, listening to this podcast. Make your own choices, but please, everybody, just stop fucking arguing. Please. Like, there is historical context and basis for not working with any eclipse. Like, people who are saying that, I believe, are coming from a good place, because there is genuine historical context here. However, let's just stop arguing. Okay? Let's hold hands, share a biscuit. Let's be friends.
So, if you just started listening to us, every podcast we talk about a random tarot card. We go over the universal meanings and then our own interpretations of the cards. Hearing other people's opinions helps beginners form their own opinions, or even those who have been practicing for a while, expand their views on other meanings. This week, we are talking about the King of Cups. On the Rider-Waite-Smith version of this deck, you will see our king sitting on a throne in the middle of a somewhat restless ocean, but he is remaining steady despite it all. He holds a cup in one hand and a wand or scepter in the other. The universal keywords of this card are balance, emotional maturity, and compassion. So, for myself, kings deal with power, expansion, looking towards the future, boundaries, and building up their kingdoms. This particular king deals with using emotions to his benefit and concentrates on the future outlook of his happiness and emotional fulfillment. When this king pops up in readings, it shows that we need to remain level-headed and not let our emotions get the best of us. We need to think about how we react emotionally, how we react to things emotionally that may affect us in the long run. And this doesn't mean that we should ignore the negative feelings we are facing, but to use them to our advantage. Put boundaries up where they need to be to protect our mental and emotional health and even push past our fears and expand on what happiness means to us so we can attain further happiness and fulfillment down the road. He can also tell us that we need to remain impartial in some situations, not to get emotionally involved for not only our benefit, but sometimes for others as well. If you do have to be emotionally invested in the situation, this card wants you to remember what it is you are building up for in the potential long term. It isn't always going to be easy, and you may face some turbulent waters along the way, but much like when you are in a relationship, you know, we take the good with the bad. We love our partners because we want to build a life with them. Ergo, remember why you started and what you're building up to and how much it means to you. So, Robin, how do you view this card?
Well, before I tell you how I view this card, I want to tell you my favorite little fact tidbit about this card. I know this won't be surprising that I say it since I wrote an entire fucking book on symbolism of tarot, but if you look at the original artwork by Pamela Coleman Smith, in the bottom left-hand corner, you see like a little fish like jumping out of the water. That was supposed to be a dolphin.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it's supposed to be a dolphin. And I don't know, like, it was like 1910 or something. Maybe she'd never seen a dolphin before or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. But I just really like that little anecdote about this card.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, isn't it? That's why it's jumping out of the water. It's a dolphin. Okay, so with this card, I see the King of Cups like being the perfect father that we all wish we had. Like, he is patient, he is kind. When he gets upset, he doesn't lash out. He knows when to walk away from a situation and come back to it when his emotions are more stable. His emotions are less transparent in that he is so in tune with himself that he's able to not necessarily show them outwardly right away. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's in control of that sort of situation. And with that, he also is like this incredibly talented artist, and because he has other controlled means of emotional expression. And so when I see this card in a reading, oftentimes it is reminding us to hone in that kind of energy, to have a word with ourselves, walk away from situations that, you know, maybe we would have a reaction. You know what I mean? It is choosing to pause and think instead of just erupt, and instead finding new means to communicate those emotions in a healthy way. That is... That's how I see it. Not everybody is obviously going to go paint about it, but you can still communicate effectively and healthily without necessarily needing to react in that exact moment.
I like that.
Thanks.
You're so smart.
Thanks. I have like a really big brain. It's so pretty. So this week we are going to talk about something that, if you follow me on social media, you're probably sick of me talking about, but tough shit. We're going to talk about it anyway. Marie and I are going to talk about vetting sources in the witchcraft community. As content creators ourselves, I personally believe this is something that we are not exempt from being held to. Content creators in general are human beings. We're not God. We're not the judge and jury. And most content creators, in my opinion, are doing their absolute best out there to provide you with well-researched information, or even if they don't have the well-researched information, pointing you in a direction that maybe you could find it. However, and I know we've talked about this a little bit in the past, there are content creators out there, and not just content creators out there, actually, that's an oversimplification. There are creators of all kind. So authors, podcasters, fucking poets, like, I don't know, like everybody, right? That their main goal is to get you to engage with them so they can make money, which leads us into a definition that we have to cover before getting into this topic, which is the definition of a grifter. I know that word has been thrown around a lot on the internet lately. And grifter, by my definition, so do what you will with that, is not somebody who makes money off of witchcraft necessarily. Because this is a lot of our jobs. Like, I'm not going to sit here and tell people, pointing fingers and say, well, you make money off this, so you're a grifter. Because us being on this podcast, we make money from doing this. That's what our Patreon's for, right? Or the fact that I run a tarot shop. I wrote a book. Maria runs a tarot shop. Like, Maria's writing a book. Like, to point fingers at somebody just because they financially benefit from their creation would be an unfair thing to say. But what a grifter is compared to, let's say, somebody who runs a business or shop, etc., is they are providing you with false information intentionally. So clickbaity stuff, or stuff that they know that will be reactionary for you, that isn't necessarily rooted in any kind of historical context or reality, or even if it is UPG, which is very valid, they never tell you that. They tell it to you as though it's a fact, because they want you to keep coming back to them so they can keep making money. When their sole purpose is making money, that, you know what I'm saying?
That's why I think it's so important, if you are talking about personal correspondences or personal, like, feelings, like, I make sure I say that.
Yeah.
Because if I know not everyone is going to agree with me, I'll be like, this is how I feel personally. And I think that's really important, especially if you're like, I haven't really heard about this in book, but this is my experience with using, whatever it is that you're talking about.
Grifters, in my personal opinion and definition, so this is not like, don't quote Maria on this or use it as a definition, this is just a Robin definition. Grifters are somebody who will tell you a lot that you're wrong. They'll say, for example, like, Maria is a brunette. Like, brunettes are wrong and they can't be witches, but they will never once tell you why that is. Where you can find that written somewhere else. They'll usually say shit to you like, do your research. So they are these faces in the community that provide no historical context. They provide no sources or substance to what they're telling you, but simultaneously telling you how fucking wrong you are all the time and how they're actually right. They've got a real big brain and you don't. You little dummy. That's why you need to come to them. And that should be a red flag to me, in my opinion. And there's no one person or content creator this is about. I know that I called out a specific person for doing something that I felt was problematic in my blog post, but that this is not an attack at them or trying to further that narrative. This is actually a really large blanket problem within our community, which is why we're talking about it today. So I don't want people thinking that this, like, beef or whatever is continuing, because it's just not. It's just not. And so we're going to talk about it. So, Maria, what would you say is a good recommendation for people vetting sources?
So I think it's very important that if you're, let's say that you've come across something on the internet that from a specific person that, I don't know, that you've never heard before, and you're like, well, you like, maybe that makes sense. I think it's very important to look at that person's history before you start, like, resharing their stuff and all that, just to make sure, because what if this person is, like, has a history of saying very inflammatory things? That usually is a big red flag that you should probably not be getting your information from them. And like, I don't know. Like, I do think, it's important to look at how long a witch has been practicing in their craft, especially like going for someone for information. I mean, new witches do come in our community with a tremendous amount of new knowledge, and they definitely, add stuff to the community. But if you're I feel like if especially a newer witch who has only been reading stuff up online, they might not have the knowledge basis that they necessarily should, they don't have that knowledge basis in order to say certain things. So definitely make sure you know how long a witch has been practicing for before truly, I don't know, taking what they say as solid fact. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
I mean, I definitely agree with you for most things. I do think that there are witches out there that, let's say, started a year ago, and they put more passion, energy, research, etc., than people that have been doing it for 10 years. So I would say I agree with you on that, but to an extent. Only because of those reasons. Like I've known some people.
I think that's part of the reason for like going back and looking at the witch and what they have posted in the past.
For sure.
Because if they have been doing all that research, and you can obviously tell, then that makes sense. Yeah.
And like I don't know, I get frustrated. Like I get so frustrated. Clickbait and being, and I'm trying to think of how to word this without sounding like a fucking asshole. But you know what? Here's the thing, guys. I'm going to sound like a dick. Content creators run on an algorithm. Maria and I are no exception to this. Am I wrong? Is there not an algorithm that we freaking sacrifice to every day with our posts?
Yes.
And how algorithms work most typically is it's not just how many likes you get. It's how many people comment on it. Are people sharing this as well? For example, if I post a picture of a cat and the cat is cute and whatever, right? And lots of people like the picture of the cat, that'll do okay. But if I put a picture of a cat in a blender and I'm like, you ever get those feelings to like just murder your cat or something? I don't know. I'm obviously a poor example. But people are then going to go and comment on that and be like, oh my gosh, don't put your cat in a blender, or I love putting my cat in a blender, or freaking whatever, right? That is engagement. Engagement then pushes it further on the algorithm. So if you have a content creator who, for example, is saying that if you don't have access to the internet, for example, this is one I can think of right now, but anyway, you don't have access to the internet, you can't be a real witch. Like, not only is that classist as hell, but doesn't that make you mad to hear that? Like, if you don't have internet, you're not a real witch. So then you are going to comment on it and you're going to say shit like, what the fuck is wrong with you, person? And then that gets them engagement. And then their next post, because how the algorithm works is their next post will be pushed higher. Oopsie, sorry. Will be pushed higher on the algorithm by default because of this kind of forward trajectory. And then they can say, hey guys, come subscribe to my podcast where I talk more about this, and that will automatically be pushed higher. And so you're now going to go there, they're going to get ad revenue, etc. And I'm not shaming anybody for being a user of the algorithm at all. I'm a user of the algorithm. Maria is a user of the algorithm. However, when you see a content creator posting really inflammatory things that gets a lot of engagement and then immediately post about like something that they are creating that costs money or a product that they're pushing. Now, it might be a coincidence. Like, content creators like usually have this shit planned out weeks in advance. So it could be a very good coincidence, but also maybe isn't. And this is something that we need to take into consideration when we are using the internet and content creators as sources for our magical information. If it creates a reaction out of you, in my opinion, that it makes you feel something really strong. And I don't mean like this piece moved me or wow, I feel so knowledgeable. I mean like a I'm scared reaction or this gives me anxiety. This is something to consider verifying elsewhere. Consume but verify, because they might just be saying that to gain a reaction out of you to make money. And it's fucked up, and it's a fucked up truth of our community, but witchcraft is not the like we're not the only ones. There are people that will say inflammatory things to get a reaction for either money or attention. And it's crummy. It's really crummy, but it is unfortunately a very real aspect of the society that we live in. Yeah. Does that make sense?
So should we? Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Should we talk about books?
Yes, I do want to talk about books. So you go first.
Okay. So I think it is very important to know that most white authors, especially from the early to mid 1900s, had problematic past, especially when like looking at them with modern eyes. But it's important to address that problematic past when you're referencing said person. Obviously, some of these authors weren't breaking any generational curses during their time, and we can take their failures and use them to our advantage to be better humans. So it is important to make sure, that today's authors or posts you are seeing are trying in some part to address that in their books, especially if they're talking about authors from that particular time period. And now, outside of problematic books, magic and like our witchcraft experiences are so highly personal, unique, and individual. And this will definitely come out in certain books, especially modern ones. I think it is important to look at the authors and what is said about them online and making sure that it resonates with you before buying a book. You will see that, many reviews online are from people who disagree with something the author has said. I think we talked about this in the previous podcast, but, they didn't go in the mindset of reading this book. No one should go in thinking that they're going to fully agree with the author. And that's why I think it's very important to look at said author and make sure that you resonate with them first, if they have like an online presence or they have had previous books, just to make sure that you're not getting a book that you're not going to get anything from. Does that make sense?
It does. And a good example of what Marianne just said in terms of, the context of the people that we're living in, an example I like to use is that Crowley, for example, was a dickhead. Piece of shit guy. Just not a good person. Kind of misogynist, did bad things. But then people will there was a list going around of authors to cancel, and the top thing that they put on the list was that he was a pervert. Well, Crowley was labeled a pervert because he was in a relationship with a man in 1905. And that doesn't justify the bad things that he did, but let's consider the historical context here. It's because he was fucking a dude.
I'm not saying this is, I think I read it in a book. Wasn't he a pedophile?
I don't know.
14-year-old
I'm not going to speak on that because I actually have no idea.
Okay. I wonder if that's where that was coming from. Because
the most articles that it comes up with, the reason that the label came up was because it was in a newspaper. And the example given was because he was fucking a man. Does not mean that there weren't other perverted things that were going on, but the actual label itself stemmed from that. Okay. And I'm like I said, I'm not trying to justify things Crowley did. I'm just using that as an easy example.
Yeah. I completely get it.
Definitely not trying to be actually, I think he was a really good guy, because I'm not.
Yeah. Sorry.
It's okay.
But
when it comes to things like confirm yet verify, then we go into things like talking about books like Maria said, right? And looking at it in terms of historical context, looking at things and kind of going back to the content creators using you. They make you feel scared, and they make you feel like everybody else in history is canceled, and therefore you can only listen to them. Therefore, they're going to make money off of you. And instead, that's simply not true. There are a lot of fucking sources for where you can get free or affordable books that are not pirating, that you can expand your knowledge. You can look at archives. You can look at just so many different things that are free. They aren't taking advantage of authors, and you don't have to just rely on a 30-second reel or TikTok video or even a blog post. Like, I am a blogger. I write blogs. Do not take everything I say as absolutely perfect. Like, I'm still a human. Like, I do my best to research and share, but I'm gonna make fuck ups. So consume, but verify. And there's lots of free and great ways to do that. Yeah. In my blog post, I did give a whole list of places you can get like books affordably, and I will include that list to the Coffee and Cauldron's Instagram like link tree, so that way you guys can still have access to it. It's in like a, I mean, you can go to my blog if you want to, but I'll just make a list and I'll put it in our link tree.
I like that. But no, I completely agree. And
it's a lot.
You know, we just need to consume wisely.
Yes.
And do our own research on top of the it's like a multi-layered thing. Like, you're doing research, you have to research that research. Just keep going to make sure that
work.
It is, and that's why it's a magical practices. Like, you're not going to learn everything that you need to in like a week or a year or even 10 years or even 20 years. We're all like constantly learning and constantly evolving.
Is okay. Like, this is something that I think that as a community we have to remember, is that we're all doing our best. We're also not computers. We're human beings that can only consume at a certain, speed. So like, let's just be fucking nice to each other and help each other out, instead of just being dicks that yell at one another on the internet about how, well, actually, I don't know, it just bothers me. Also, I think that a leader and a teacher, I'm just going to say this as a final thing. A leader and a teacher, even if they don't fully open up about their practice online, because nobody fucking owes you that. That is a private, personal thing. Okay? They should still at least... You should have an idea of a little bit what kind of tradition or path that they practice. You know what I'm saying? Like, even if you don't understand their practice fully because they don't feel like they need to share that, and that is their right to do that, you should still have an idea of the kind of tradition or paradigm, etc., that they follow. And if you can't think of a single thing that person has shared personally about their practice that you can be like, oh, well, Robin, for example, she doesn't share that much about her practice, but I do know that she works with Santa Muerte. I know that she works with spirits, right? If you can't answer that about a content creator, but they're causing a reaction out of you, perhaps that's not a content creator to be getting your information from. That's just my opinion. You can do what you want with that. So, Maria, what's stirring your cauldron this week?
Oh, let me tell you.
Saucy.
Yes, as we always are. Anyways, so if you've been following me a while on Instagram, you may have seen playlists I make floating around. I try to make a monthly playlist and also make them for specific rituals or celebrations. I don't just make these for you guys, but I also make them for myself. I love curating playlists so much and finding new artists. I have a very, very, very taste in music. But, you know, my favorite type of music has like a cinematic touch, which is great for like when I'm doing spell work. And, you know, music plays such an important role in my craft. I honestly don't think I could do a spell or a tarot reading without it. I feel that music has the potential to raise our energy, especially if like we're dancing and they're moving our body to the tunes before and during spell work. And I feel like it aids us so that, you know, in whatever we are magically doing. And it is also like a mood booster. Like if you're having problems, you know, you want to do a spell a specific night. So you dance it out, or you're like me and you're upset and you're rage cleaning while listening to like punk rock. You know, I'm guaranteed to feel a little bit better afterwards. Is this shadow work? Possibly. But anyways. And we actually have someone on the Discord that uses music and playlists for divinatory purposes for tarot readings. And I think that's just like super cool and fun. I mean, you never really hear about that, people doing that intentionally, but she has like a playlist of 900 songs or so, and she shuffles it, and certain songs pop up during tarot readings, and she finds more often than not that they have like the song choices pertain to the reading. And I think that's a really interesting way to involve, you know, witches, technology centric witches and music, you know, combining those sorts of witchcrafts together. That was really interesting.
I think that's interesting too.
How about you? Do you like to use music in your craft?
Me? We're moving on to what I don't like, bitch.
So what Robin's saying is that she hates music.
I do.
And all she does is listen to nature.
Listen, I've never heard a song in my life that I was like, wow, this is really good. Instead, I heard a song and I went, delete. Get this out of my sight. I actually really like your not your podcast. I really like your podcast, Maria.
Oh, thanks. I have some help.
I think your co-host is really hot. I have never heard one of your playlists that I didn't like, so that was what I was gonna say. Oh, you're welcome.
You're so sweet. You're so sweet.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they're fun. I like making playlists too, just not as often as you do. So I have a couple, but Maria's got like a whole freaking library of them.
I do.
Welcome to the Internet Archives.
I'm currently making like 5 more, and if you're keeping an eye out for it, I'm making a sex magic playlist. So
dang.
Keep an eye out on Maine,
Maria. What she's trying to say is this the music her and her wife have sex to, and you're all so welcome to get to be a part of that.
You're so lucky that your ears are so blessed to hear it.
You are so lucky, honestly. Disgusting.
Please don't think of me having sex. Please don't do it.
Never think of me. Temperance Alden, I was sent a adult wand. They actually sent me 2, so I sent her one as a birthday gift because it was like it was around her birthday.
You gift a vibrator.
I gifted a vibrator, which is chill and normal and totally fine. And I put a note inside of the box, and I just said, "Never think of me when you're using this. Like, please." Just do not perceive me when this is in or around you, okay? Like, ugh. Anyway, you're all welcome for that little tidbit.
Of course, a music discussion would go into this sort of talk. Only us.
Never perceive me. Well, you're the one going, yeah, sex magic. Guys, fuck to my playlist.
I'm just saying that I have pretty sexy taste in music. Jeez.
So anyway, back to pervert talk.
Do these songs make me feel horny? Maybe. Will they make you feel horny? Hopefully. We'll see.
I want you to know that I never wanted to think about things that made you feel horny. I just want to put that out there. I never thought about it once. Not one time was I like, I wonder what gets Maria going.
Music, Robin. Music.
Oh my God.
So, Robin, what is not stirring your cauldron this week?
Can I just say that this is what makes me horny? I don't need the music. Thank you so much for asking. Wow. What is not stirring my cauldron this week? The entire internet. All of it. The whole internet.
We just need a break.
Before we had decided our main topic, I was going to talk about basically our main topic today as what was just not doing it for me. But the real issue here is the internet in general. I just need a break. Everybody's so mad. I don't know if it's like eclipse season or what, but everybody seems to be on 11 right now. And I can't deal with that at this time. Like I've had people thinking that I'm talking about them on the internet when I'm not. Like I'm just making, like I had somebody get upset about a ghost joke I made and they thought I was talking about them. And I was like, I'm watching this guy blow up a crystal and say that there's a ghost in it. Like this has nothing to do with you. It's a lot of like parasocial problems. I just need a nap. That's what I need. I'm tired of the internet. I love the internet so much. I really do, actually. And I've been having like a lot of fun streaming scary video games and having chats and stuff on Twitch, which has been great. But in general, the whole internet right now, everybody just needs to have some milk and a nap and like just be fucking nice to each other. Everybody's being so mean. Like just always. And
I just feel like so many people, because of the pandemic and stuff like that, have just like so much going on in their own lives with work stress. Like there's so much stress, but like they're bringing that stress and like they're trying to find some way to vent it, and they're not venting it in the most healthiest of ways by, you know,
and I do get it.
Bring it to the internet.
Yeah, I do get it. There's a lot of stress going on. We also are in a global position of transitioning back to quote normal. You know, I don't remember what the statistic is exactly, but the last I read, it was like 61% of people in America, at least, so I don't know about everywhere else, have been vaccinated. So like we are now like the scales are tipping to the direction of going back to normal. I mean, the CDC announced that as long as you've been vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask or whatever. And that's like scary, especially considering the fact that we've been living in this world for the last 15 months or whatever, where that has not been the case. And so like, I get it. There's a lot of change happening. Change is scary. I understand. But like, hey, maybe we journal about that and not just project that at strangers on the internet. What do you think?
You do some of that shadow work and face our emotions.
The latest take that has absolutely, I took a break from the internet for a few days because of it, was when there was that whole like Nazi thing happening online. I got called a bully because I said, hey, Nazis are bad. You should not be sharing Nazi books to minors. That's with no context. That's not okay. I got called a bully for that. And I'm like, we as a left-leaning community, or at least my immediate community is left-leaning, are constantly saying to call that shit out. And then the moment it gets called out, it's you're a bully. Like, excuse me? Anyway, no. I'm not going to go back into that. I said I was letting it go, and I really meant that. But like, that is an example of like the climate of the internet right now, and your girl needs a nap. That is,
and the eclipse stuff too. Like,
and the eclipse stuff, and then like I made a joke. Just so
angry right now.
I made a joke about being, because somebody said that I got hexed, right? And I didn't think I was hexed. Not actually. Okay. but I thought it was funny. Like that somebody was like, you know, you got hexed. So I made like a fucking TikTok where I was just like, oh yeah, you'd rather fucking hex a pregnant lady than say sorry. And I had prefaced it in the comments. Like, I don't really think anything happened to me. Like, this is just a joke. I thought it was funny, right? And I'm getting yelled at. You're attacking them. And I was like, whoa. I didn't say anybody's name. And I said multiple times that this was a joke, like to multiple people. And as like a cat, like, calm, we can laugh at funny things. And it's not anything more serious than that. It's okay. It's funny. That's funny. That's funny to think that if that were true, that somebody would do that. Like, it's not that serious. Please. Please, guys. So
let's all take a nap. Should we all take a nap?
Like, especially if you followed my content at least for a while. Like, I am not that serious all the time. I'm usually shit posting and like laughing at myself. Like, it's not that serious. Like, can we please stop yelling at each other? Like, this is crazy. Like, there's a huge difference between holding somebody accountable and just like yelling into the void. Like, stop it.
I think everyone's just been cooped up in their houses for way too long and like just marinating in their problems. And it's time to become more sociable and nicer to our fellow humans. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, that's what's not stirring my cauldron. I hope you guys are being nice to each other and to yourselves, and you know, just choosing to say like I did the no subtweet week, and the no subtweet week wasn't so we would scream at each other. It was, the whole point was either it's serious enough that you are gonna tag that person directly, or it's not worth the energy, so just let it go. Like, that was the whole point of it. And people were like taking it to this nth degree, and I'm just like, guys, hey guys, let's all just hold hands. Anyway, I don't want to keep hashing this out, but that's just not stirring my cauldron this week. Yay. If you've just joined us this week, I'm going to preface this. You know what? It had been like probably 2 or 3 episodes we didn't get a message for a while. And then we got one last night, and I sent it to Maria just like, can you fucking believe this? Stop asking to be featured on here. And if you tell us that you're a huge fan, but then you still fucking ask, it tells us that you don't actually listen at all. These are creators, shops, artists, etc. that we are loving right now. Point blank. These are things that we are finding genuinely and organically. Stop asking to be promoted on the podcast. You're so rude and disrespectful. Like, no. No means no. Not convinced. End of discussion.
No means no.
Yeah. And I don't care if you say you're a big fan, because I call bullshit on that. Anyway, doesn't matter. Maria, who are you loving right now?
So on Instagram, I've been loving Winter of Her Discontent.
I love the name.
I don't know their name. Yeah, I know. It's emo. Beautiful. I'm so jealous that I didn't come up with it myself. But they recently did a painting of Medusa, and it is beautiful, like 10 out of 10, like gorgeous. And I don't know, and then the rest of the images, like they're very like fantasy based and some mythological stuff thrown in, and they're just talented and so stunning. I know, right?
They're just talented. Point blank.
Yeah. I can't tell, like, is it watercolor? Like a little bit?
It looks like oil paintings to me.
Oil painting?
That's what it looks like.
Whatever it is.
Or maybe like a digital medium that gives off the effect of like actual paint. I'm not certain.
Yeah.
I'm just
guessing. No, but beautiful. Like, if you want to
Yeah.
feel inspired, like, look at their page.
So beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So,
love it.
how about you?
My creator is actually another podcast, and one that I was on recently called Real Witches of the End Time. Manna, who is the host, I think is really going somewhere. I had a blast on their podcast, and I think that it is an overall like really good tone of like just what a fun podcast is, I guess, where you're talking about serious things, but you're not doing it in a way that you're taking it so seriously that you're pretentious. Does that make sense?
No, that makes complete sense.
Yeah,
100%.
I just really, really enjoyed it. Manna's had some of my friends on there before, people like I know and respect, and I really like the episodes, and I really think this is a podcast to look out for. I think it's entertaining, it's informative, it's good. I like it. 10 out of 10. Everybody, I think, should go and give it a try at least. It's a like magic and paranormal like story sharing podcast where they have guests, etc. Very fun, very cool. I really like it. I think other people should check it out. That's it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There's only 2 of us. Fuck's sake. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope to see you on Friday, June 11th for our 12th episode of Season 2. Keep an eye out on our Instagrams and our Twitter. You can follow us on Instagram at Coffee and Cauldrons Pod or on Twitter, Coffee Cauldrons Pod, for more information. Speaking of hard.
Or even better, joining us on our Discord tier, Witches First Coven, on Patreon, so we can answer your questions in our part 2 next time.
You'll even get to hear our lovely, sexy, sensual, erotic, beautiful, perfect voices for an additional 30-minute-ish episode for being on our Patreon, casting tier and up.
So again, this is Coffee and Cauldrons
with Robin at A Tired Witch on Instagram.
And I'm Maria from @Maria_the_Arcane on Instagram.
All right, you ready to count down?
Okay. Yep. Let's do this.
All right. 1, 2, 3. Bye, witches.
Bye, witches.
That was the worst one we've done in a while.